All right, ICE raids ramp up across Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, and the D.C. area. So what's happening here? Well, live and direct, let's talk about what is going on. Shout out to Case Study QB. The whole world is going mad.
Including an undocumented man arrested at a car wash as his 7-year-old son cried out to him. Here's Gabe Gutierrez.
A 7-year-old boy crying out to his father, who'd just been taken into custody by ICE agents at a car wash in Los Angeles. That man undocumented. Another one of his sons, who is a U.S. citizen, just turned 16.
Says it easy, brought a lot of joy to my house. And now I feel that without him, the house feels dead.
Also in California, this video shows ICE agents chasing down a farm worker. One woman recording on her cell phone when she's confronted by an immigration officer.
We're doing our job. You can do whatever you like, but please stand back.
In Omaha, the new Democratic mayor's office says ICE detained nearly 80 people at a meatpacking plant. The raid so sudden, workers' lunch boxes were left behind.
I don't know why Omaha was targeted.
There were 11 million illegal border crossings during the Biden administration. Tonight, President Trump is ramping up his mass deportation plan.
Nobody can understand why they allowed people to come into our country totally unvetted, unchecked.
The Department of Homeland Security saying in L.A. this week, ICE agents arrested undocumented immigrants with convictions for murder, child molestation, domestic violence, and other serious felonies. A new poll finding a majority of Americans, 54%, approve of the president's deportation program. Now, two sources familiar with the planning of future ICE operations tell NBC News the agency is now preparing to deploy special response tactical teams to 5 cities run by Democrats: Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, and the D.C. area.
Now, here's the thing. I understand that many people have different perspectives and points of view. But the bigger picture here is, look, there's a reason why there's a migrant crisis because of previous failed policies, right? But the other thing that needs to be worried about here, that people, even the counter protesters, need to worry about, is overall the big surveillance that's going to take place on June 14th. Now, what is that? That's Donald Trump's big military parade / birthday. And that's also when the No Kings March is going to be happening nationwide. And look, I'm all for everyone's right to free speech, whether you're protesting ICE or either being a counter protester. But you are going to be looked at. If you're going to tell me that there won't be surveillance drones and cameras and people inside, and not to mention you always have to worry about agitators and people who are really out there causing more problems. After all, at the end of the Trump administration, you did have all the protests from the Black Lives Matter happen. And of course, many people are still remembering what happened on January 6th, of course. And I noticed that on both sides, especially when the Democrats were in power and then in turn when the Republicans were in power, oh, we need to round up and regulate and screen capture all these faces and people so that they're held accountable. It's all one big surveillance job. It's all one big plan. And it's all one big joke.
Yeah.
These raids are not isolated incidents. They are direct assault in our immigrant families, on working class neighborhoods.
Those sources say it's not clear if the raids in those cities will begin immediately, but the tactical units have been told to be ready to deploy. Tom?
Yes, and of course already, not trying to make light of the situation, but there's already going to be people making the memes and the jokes. You have stuff like this happening. Now, I got this quieted because of copyright music, but there you go. You have all the madness, all the insanity, the distraction. And this is what's going to come from tomorrow, not tomorrow, but on Saturday, of course. There's going to be some stupidity, some insanity. And you have all of our politicians and world players and influencers all at the game. And while it is hilarious to look at, the real truth is that this is a campaign promise that Donald Trump did say he was going to do. Well, no, not do a music video. And no, not Kanye West wearing a uniform of the Third Reich. But it is imperative for every single one of us to understand that in this day and age where you have the surveillance state, Trump running on his campaign promises, Oh, hey, there's Greta eating. Okay, hey Greta, how you doing? But you have this era and this situation where, okay, people are being round up, people are being picked up, and it's only a matter of time before even more of our data is collected. This is the foundation in which you have, a quasi minority report. This is where you start scanning people. This is where you start collecting people's data and information. This is the big con job that's happening. And while Trump is following through with his campaign promise, remember that there's always a price to that promise, especially if a politician keeps a promise. Especially if a politician keeps a promise. Man-made horrors beyond our belief will be before us. So I want to pull up this article here. This is something that took place in Chicago. Chicago, the federal government has prepped immigration and customs enforcement tactical teams for deployment in Chicago, city officials have learned. Mayor Brandon Johnson's chief of staff, Christina Zayas, said Wednesday that federal agents were told they have 48 hours to stand by and be ready to deploy. There will be tactical teams. There will be mini tanks. Oh, a mini tank. You mean light armored vehicles? Not a mini tank. Light armored never. You know what? I don't even care anymore. Mini tanks. It's a mini tank. A mini tank. There will be other tools that they use in which they plan to do raids, as we saw in Los Angeles, she said. Johnson said he'd spoken earlier in the day with both Governor J.B. Pritzker and Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle about the notice and to ensure open lines of communication. It's going to take all of us to stand firm to ensure our democracy is intact, he said. Earlier, Chicago police said that more than 15 people were taken into custody during a large Tuesday evening protest against ICE activity. In total, 17 people were taken into custody. Police said 10 of the arrests were for misdemeanors, while 4 were for felonies. One other arrest was for possession of a paint or marker with the intent to deface. Charges are pending against 2 others. The ages of those charged range from 20 to 37. WGN source also told that 10 Chicago Transit Authority buses and 13 police squad cars were damaged with spray paint during the demonstrations. So let's go ahead and play a little bit of this. Hold on. And I believe this could be muted. Let me unmute this.
Demonstrations downtown are often chaotic and disruptive to those just trying to get home. Yesterday, protesters marched from the Federal Plaza all over downtown, at some points clashing with police. Several arrests were made. The disruption downtown was nearly disastrous when a maroon car ignored police and sped through a street filled with demonstrators. A 66-year-old woman was hit and suffered a fractured arm. Despite the scare, the demonstration continued.
I feel like ICE is treating the immigrants wrong and they're not giving them the freedom that everybody else should. So I feel like we should stand up and protest it because that's the right thing to do.
For some protesters, President Trump's immigration policy is personal.
My family comes from Mexico personally, and it just means a lot to me that coming out here and everyone coming together for all of Chicagoans and not just a few, it really means a lot. And for me to be here, I mean, it's kind of a must, really, at least for my family.
Yesterday's protest was tame compared to the demonstrations in and around LA. Squad cars and buses here were vandalized, but not set on fire.
We're out here today because we have demands. We are a movement. We're not a moment. We're not going back. This is an inflection point, a turning point.
I know they hear us, but I don't think they truly hear us.
At Federal Plaza.
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, they don't hear you and they don't care. It's not me being negative here. That's not me being negative. I'm all for everyone's right for the First Amendment and free speech. I am for the First Amendment and free speech. It's just I've covered so many of these protests and activists. I've covered so many of these things to where it's like, okay, are they meeting somewhere near the Daily Center or near Federal Plaza? Are they going to go ahead, rally, and then march, or rally up somewhere near Grant Park or by the Bean, and then march to Trump Tower and scream at it across the river? Look, and that's what's going to happen here in Chicago. You know, speaking with a few people who have been covering this story, who've been talking about it, let me be clear on this. Be careful if you're going to be going and attending it. to my friends and allies, and even my critics in independent media or whatever media sphere you're in, to the trolls and to the haters too. If you're going to be there, be careful, because all the camera eyes will be on every single person. And it includes you. Oh, and don't forget you all the way in there in the back. It's a way for control. And if something is to go wrong at these protests, because after all, tomorrow, Trump is having his, not tomorrow, June 14th, Trump is having his parade. It's his big birthday parade. There's going to be massive protests all around the country that are being funded, or is it at allegedly, supposedly, in theory, by one of the Waltons, who's one of the people connected to the Walmart enterprise, the Walmart business. What could go wrong? So you see all these protests taking place, and it's clear, very clear to me and to everyone else that's watching, that there's a bigger game here. So be safe out there. Be careful. We're going to do our very best to cover this story too, but being self-aware and keeping your head on a swivel and taking a step back. And what do I mean by taking a step back? Well, when I was wide-eyed and still had hope, when, I didn't become so jaded with so many things that I've had to witness in this media business, let me tell you something. When I went to cover a Trump protest way back during his first term, 2018, 2019, I remember stepping out of the crowd trying to get a wide shot of the people protesting. And they were marching to Trump Tower. And that's when I saw it. The cage. The little sheep pen. As their leaders were marching their fellow protesters into a little sheep pen so they could yell at Trump Tower. Now, I get it. I'm all for security and everything like that. But if that's the resistance, if this is what it's going to lead down to, it's all performative art.